Hello and welcome to A Slice of Pie, the semi-weekly Newsish show that we do on this channel. And we're not going to beat around the bush. There is a lot to talk about this week. How is everybody doing today? I hope you're doing well. I'm personally quite pumped because we've got a lot of stuff coming. We have at least 4 videos in the next 2 weeks that will be coming out. In fact, we're gonna bookend it with another episode of Slice of Pie, of course. But in between that, we've got a PC build. We've got the conclusion of GamerGuts' PC build, essentially. We have the review for the O11 Dynamic XL. We're finally finishing that. And this is one of the more exciting ones. I've got my first piece of the test PC coming in. The case for this is actually fairly interesting and unique, and from what I can understand, it actually comes flat packed, which means we're gonna have to put it together, and I'm pretty sure that's actually gonna be quite comical. So that is what we got going on for the next 2 weeks, and I hope you guys are looking forward to it. AMD has announced that the Ryzen 3 3000 series parts and the B550 motherboards are going to be coming very soon. So budget builders can rejoice as some lower end Ryzen parts are on their way. And since B450 was so popular, I could see B550 being the new staple for a budget gaming PC build. Rumors are to be believed, Big Navi is actually going to be quite a big GPU. At 505 millimeters squared and at a 7nm process, that's a lot of GPU to pack on one card. That means that coolers are going to be redesigned. Water coolers would have to be redesigned in order to properly cool this card. But it does come with some benefit. Reportedly, it's going to be twice as powerful as the 5700 XT. That metric would put it past the 2080 Ti in performance. That being said, Ampere is rumored to be coming out around the same time, so Big Navi might kind of be up the creek without the paddle. That being said, there is another rumor that states that AMD's low-end RDNA 2 cards are not going to have ray tracing, and that AMD is going to fragment them, much like Nvidia did with their 16 series versus their 20 series cards. Now, this move really doesn't surprise anyone, as the ray tracing technology seems to actually be expensive. And so if this is the case, I'm not all that surprised if it saves the customer some more money. But let's talk about Tiny Navi. You see, we're getting a 5500 XT and a 5600 XT in a mini ITX format. That is a form factor that fits to the length of a mini ITX motherboard. And these things are adorable. Honestly, like, I kind of want to get one just to like shove it into weird places. Like, imagine having a GPU that's so small and a motherboard that's so small that you could literally like flat pack them into a tablet. That'd be insane. Intel 10th Gen is also on its way, and it looks like another Coffee Lake refresh. Sort of. There's more cores, higher frequencies, and some new technology, but there isn't PCIe 4.0. Granted, the motherboards also will have USB 4.0. It's actually quite an interesting situation. That being said, the pricing is actually much more competitive to AMD's MSRP, which means as parts go on sale, we could actually see a big battle between AMD and Intel when it comes to pricing. Essentially, it looks like you're going to have to decide between just gaming or multitasking, and it might actually be a proposition that I could even consider. Because on one hand, you're going to have a processor with higher frequencies and probably still the same Intel IPC. On the other hand, you will have a system that can pretty much do it all. For editing, I think I'll probably stick to my Ryzen build, but for gaming, it could be a slightly different story, speaking because the prices are much more competitive. That being said, there is one downside. You would have to buy a brand new motherboard. That's right. Unfortunately, although these parts are not all that different, you are going to have to move to new motherboards, which is kind of sad because unfortunately it doesn't really seem like the new motherboards offer all that much over the old ones. In fact, it's the same high-end motherboards that we've seen from Asus Gigabyte, MSI, Biostar, all of them. And essentially it looks like it's a refresh. Now they did add PCIe 4.0 technology, but the processors don't support it natively, which is quite unusual. And also official memory support is much lower all of a sudden. And again, there's some weirdness in all of this. Now, essentially I'm going to be taking a wait and see approach. Currently, it's still cheaper to build with Ryzen, and I probably still will be building with Ryzen for that reason. But Intel might have made some moves to at least make itself a little bit more competitive with AMD, especially in the budget market. Hey, AI was good for something. RTX Voice is a thing, and it works fairly well. From what we've seen, it actually does allow you to eliminate a lot of the background noise in your live streams, your conference calls, anything really. It seems to sort of try to isolate just the wavelengths of your voice and then eliminate everything else. That being said, it's called RTX Voice, but it will run on GTX cards just fine with a little bit of finagling. There are a couple videos and tutorials on how to do that. Personally, we run our AMD GPU in here, and we're not going to be playing with it too much, but if you do have a RTX or GTX card, tell me how it works. You know, a while ago there was something called a hot swap bay that would actually attach to the front of your computer. It would be right where you would put your CD DVD drives, and essentially it would allow you to take a hard drive in and out while the PC was running. Well, they're coming back in a weird way. You see, ICDock, one of the people who actually made the docks for the hard drive bays in the front, has made an M.2 backloader cartridge hot swap bay. And I don't know how I feel about it. I kind of love the idea and absurdity, but at the same time, this is kind of a weird one, especially because M.2 enclosures, due to their size, can literally be USB. Granted, PCIe would give you more speed, and it should if the interface is thin enough, and by thin enough I mean like signal-wise, not actual like conductors. But if the interface is thin enough, you will see minimal decrease for using this. And I could see a benefit if you don't have that many M.2 slots on your motherboard, or if you switch M.2 slots for testing purposes. Either way, when it finally hits store shelves, I'm probably gonna need to get a hold of it just because it's weird, you know? It's weird and I wanna play with it. So, speaking of a blast from the past, do you remember when keyboards had all those weird attachments that you could like attach and detach? Linus did a video on it a while ago. There was like a Mad Catz one, and it was a weird time. It's coming back though. Kickstarter was just funded for a keyboard called the Mount Everest, which has a detachable OLED screen, a detachable number pad, and supposedly much more coming. Now, it's an odd concept that has never worked, but if this one does succeed, well, we could start seeing those weird Terminator-like computer keyboards yet again. Assassin's Creed Valhalla has finally actually been revealed. I don't know how long I have been hearing about this game. It feels like well over a year. So yeah, it's real, it's coming, and looks interesting. Assassin's Creed has sort of derailed as a series, but the derailing ended up actually like kind of working in its favor. As opposed to slow stealth-based gameplay, there's a weird sort of, you're not really an assassin anymore. I guess the name should probably change to just historical figure fighter or something weird like that, or RPG through history. They're gonna keep using Assassin's Creed because that name is gonna sell, but it's not really Assassin's Creed anymore. Granted, my favorite Assassin's Creed game was Black Flag, and that game wasn't Assassin's Creed either, so there's that. A couple weeks ago, we reported that Greymoor for Elder Scrolls Online was getting delayed, and now that delay has been revoked. In fact, they had a separate blog post where they're like, you know what? We're gonna get it to you on time. It's coming out May 27th, which is from this point, 26 days. So, it's coming out. It's coming out on PC first, console later. I've played a little bit of it because of the closed beta, or well, actually, no, now it's public. I actually got in a little early, but I played just the tutorial dungeon, and I can already say that there's a lot more to Greymoor than just more quests and stuff. They've done a lot to overhaul the game, and I'm going to keep myself as vague as possible because of the fact that I think I signed an NDA a long time ago. So we're not gonna talk any more about that. EKWB is actually trying to solve a very minor problem with very specific builds. They actually just created the offset pump bracket. This actually will allow for a bit more airflow through the fans if you have to attach your pump to one of your fans. It offsets it ever so slightly forward, so if it's hanging from a 90, it will actually be just a little bit off the fan so that the fan can get just a little bit more air. That being said, it is kind of a problem with only certain builds and is very specific, but it's nice to see that they're trying to fix problems that are essentially minor inconveniences to some. That being said, they have continuously pushed out monoblock solutions for VRMs and CPUs for both X570, X470, and now Intel's newest lineup is also going to be getting them. Essentially, these monoblock solutions look so good. It's all part of their EK Quantum line, and I actually think that I really want to use them. Like, I think for my next major upgrade for Nova, which is going to be at least a year away, I might actually like get a monoblock solution for that, and maybe even throw in the newest motherboard for that if it's feasible. But essentially, these things look really cool. I'm actually like really hyped on how they are handling this, because the runs to these would just look so nice, even compared to what I've already got going. Lian Li has upgraded the water cooling PC desk, a $2,000 monstrosity of desk and case. And it's amazing looking. It actually holds 2 whole computers in it, and it's just, it's beautiful, and I would build in it if it weren't for the fact that it's $2,000 just for the case alone. And then you're supposed to water cool in it, and water cooling's expensive. Like, I could easily spend $2,000 just on water cooling parts and $2,000 on just hardware, and I could easily have like an overpriced, super expensive computer, but I don't need it. It sticks to Lian Li's roots of being more expensive than most people can buy. Hey, you know what's amazing? Be Quiet is releasing a brand new version of the Be Quiet Dark Base 500. It's the 500DX, I think. Either way, there's a new version of the case with a mesh front panel. It is still sort of restricted, but it performs really well due to having mesh. And even weirder, it's quieter with mesh than it was without. Turns out, if you remove the impedance of airflow, your case can actually run at a much quieter RPM on the fans. And because of that, the case ends up actually working as intended, as a quiet case. It's very interesting to find that maybe all of the stuff that we did for silence focusing was actually more of a hindrance than it was a help. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed watching this video, you can leave a like, comment, subscribe. I do this video twice every month. No, I do this video once every 2 weeks. We'll be back in 2 weeks to talk about other stuff that has happened, because progress never really stops, and nor does the tech news. So, thank you guys again. Wolfie, out.